you guys have caught him on the way to my house with a knife, and you're just saying, have you thought about not streaming? Like, just,
It's frustrating because if you compare it to any other job, like when I was doing the DDoS stuff, like the cops don't care, but this is the equivalent of me walking to your house and slashing your tires every single morning. When you hate somebody, everything is on the table in terms of attacking that person. That's just how the internet works. I call this a lose-lose-lose situation, where when people are attacking you over like making personal claims that are false about your life, you have like 3 options and all of them suck. One is to just completely and totally ignore it, in which case people think that you're just not talking about it because they're right. So like rumors fester, people make up more shit. The second thing is to come out and flatly deny it, but not offer any proof. And then it's like, well, of course you're denying it. It looks bad, but, you know, until you actually post some proof or something, like, well, you know, obviously you're lying. And then you look bad for denying something but not proving it. And then the third one is to actually come out with personal information to 100%, like, now you guys see that you're wrong.
hello.
Oh, I'm live also, so don't. I'm going to say, normally I would say don't say anything you don't want to be broadcast, but I guess that's kind of your life, so I guess it's never been. Yeah.
Yep, true.
Hold on 1 sec.
I should probably open your stream.
Yeah, well, not if chat's distracting, so. All right. Okay, because I've never interacted with somebody like firsthand with Tourette's. Is it more comfortable for you if I respond to your texts in some way, or do I completely ignore them? What like makes more sense for you?
I don't care. Whatever your mother's boat.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm sure you get what I mean. Wow.
All right. So, do you want to? Most people, I'm sure, know who you are already. But do you want to introduce yourself and what we're talking about today? I guess.
I'm Sweet Anita. I have Tourette's syndrome. That might be why I have a dick. I have that might be why I say some things that you might not be expecting. Every now and again, I have a condition that makes me say things involuntarily. They're called tics. I also have involuntary movements and gestures, and I also write things. It's called copographia. So I will involuntarily write things to you.
Gotcha.
Stop
when you say
out.
voluntarily write things, you mean actually like with a pen and paper, or do you mean like on keyboard as well?
It's mostly with pen and paper. I tend not to use so much with keyboard, and I'm lucky because I can just delete it before I press enter if it's on the keyboard.
Okay.
So it's usually more of a pen thing that's an issue.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. And then you reached out because you wanted to chat about something particular today?
Yeah. I mean, I've been talking to lots of people in the community on Twitch in general who have experienced harassment, because I want to make a video about all this. I want people to kind of understand where we're coming from on this, because I kind of feel like, low-key, most of us know there's a problem, and most of us have been enduring this to some degree, but it's not really being addressed, and nothing is really changing for us. And there are people who are experiencing this for years and years and years, and they shouldn't have to. I don't feel like anybody should have to go through what we've been going through just to entertain people or make them laugh. I don't think that's fair or acceptable, and I think it's very easy to address and change for the better.
Oof. Okay, interesting. I followed you up until the last point where you said it's very easy to change, but I'm curious what your ideas are. Yeah.
I've heard that you've gone through quite a lot of harassment since you've been since you started streaming.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah? I mean, how long?
I mean, as like a public figure, honestly, I think it's the political stuff that gets me in the most trouble in terms of like garnering hatred from other communities. So in my early 20s, I was kind of an outspoken, I don't know if I'd say libertarian, but very much like gamer bro in terms of my political opinions. So there were certain subreddits and communities online that were on the left that tried to like repeatedly get all of my sponsors axed, or clients of my sponsors axed so they didn't drop me, or teams axed, or like friends of mine destroyed if they like, just like that kind of stuff. And then
Friends of yours?
Yeah, and then because if you can't apply enough pressure to the individual, then you apply pressure to people around them to bring the individual down, is typically how internet mobs work. So like, for instance, like they would go after a sponsor of mine, but if a sponsor of mine had already talked about like, oh, like, okay, like we're okay with this, like just don't do this again. If the sponsor wouldn't drop me, then they would try to find out the client list of that sponsor, and then they would start messaging every single client of the sponsor to get them to not work with the company that was sponsoring him anymore. Stuff like that.
Wow, that seems so persistent and intense. Like, how did you feel when all of that was going on?
I'm gonna be a really bad person to ask a lot of this. I'm a pretty cold, detached person. So for the most part, none of it really bothers me. But I think, I mean, that's a pretty atypical experience with like this level of harassment. I think like for most people, this kind of stuff has a pretty detrimental impact to their like day-to-day mentality, and then causes like occasional breakdowns and whatnot, and then hurts the way they interact with fans and everything too.
Yeah. Did it ever get any worse than that? Did anything else happen?
Yeah, I mean, 2016 onwards, I started talking like right-leaning politics. Against right-leaning politics, I started moving more to the left. So then I started to garner the hatred of a lot of right-leaning people. So sometimes I get people that submit false tips to the FBI. So I've talked to them 3 times. Sometimes I get people that are trying to figure out like where my kid's mom or my kid lives. And then people that try to, all the standard stuff like hack your account, send you death threats and all that dumb shit or whatever. Like just, yeah, it's... If it's happened, if it's possible to do, it's probably happened to me at this point.
How old is your kid? If I'm allowed to ask.
Yeah, 9 years old.
Oh wow. So there are people who would go after a 9-year-old to punish you for your political stance?
Yeah, the nice thing about, I don't know if you'd call this essentialism or not, but when you hate somebody, everything is on the table in terms of attacking that person. That's just how the internet works, basically. Yeah.
Stop talking about people's sons. Fuck him. He had a child, and he's just paying for the child's existence. Abortion was the correct action here.
Good luck pulling me.
He pays everything. He makes sure that they're well taken care of financially. But he brought a life into the world that he didn't have any intention of loving or caring for. And that's what abortion is for. If the pregnancy happens between 2 people that have no intention to raise a family together, that's what it does.
What?
Stop talking.
Why would you even think for a second that you would have the wherewithal to have any idea what the relationship is between me and my kid to suggest that I should have gotten an abortion? Why would you ever think that you would be in the right to get onto a stream and say, I think that guy, he should have aborted his kid? That's because you don't care about insults levied at you, but insults levied at your son are more personal. Yeah, I guess. Jeez. Maybe since I don't respond to like the hatred on myself, maybe they're like, well, maybe if we go after his kid, it'll work better. I'm sorry. I'm explaining. I'm not justifying or saying that's right or wrong. I'm just saying that that's typically how people do it. Yeah, if somebody does something you don't like, then that person becomes evil. Every single person associated with them becomes evil. Every single thing in their life is evil. And that's usually how people, yeah.
That's just astounding. And that's a lot of pressure to be under just to talk about stuff. I mean, it feels odd, especially because everyone has political opinions. Like, we carry them with us wherever we go. It just seems so odd that the kind of industry standard would be that if you express that live, that somehow you have to be ready to put your life on the line or the people that you care about on the line in order to just express something so fucking basic.
Yeah, I'm a little bit more aggressive than most, so I can understand to some extent why I irritate people so much. But obviously, yeah, the level of like attack is pretty insane sometimes. I think you said that it's easier if you have my camera. I just realized I don't have my camera on. Do you want me to turn that on?
No, this is fine.
Oh,
I
okay,
mean,
gotcha.
yeah.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, I mean, I've been speaking to quite a lot of people who've gone through this to such a persistent level. One of the people I spoke to had been enduring revenge porn for 9 years. 9 years. She went to the police about it, and he had to pay £100 fine. He got a restraining order. He breaches it to constantly contact her mods and her viewers and just send them revenge porn constantly.
Yeah.
It's astounding, absolutely astounding.
Yeah, I had personal pictures of mine leaked a while ago, a long time ago, 7 years ago, and I remember one of the subreddits that hated me. I think that they set a picture of my dick was one of their default like posts on like their subreddit for like 6 months.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I had to make a huge post about it. That made it to the #1 of Reddit to say, hey, this is kind of fucked up that nobody's done anything about this because I messaged the mods about it. So yeah, but after everybody in the world saw my dick, they got rid of it, so that was good.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
You've been through so much, and it's kind of incredible just how much you've had to endure just to talk to people on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
This just seems so ridiculously extreme. And it really speaks of the sensitivity of the people that will literally go after you just for having an opinion. I mean, I don't care what people's opinions are. I think that talking is good. I think shutting people down and shutting down the discussion closes people off to growth, change, and education. I think these discussions are vital. I think they're important. I think, if you don't like what someone has to say, then the whole point of changing, the whole start of changing that is letting them say it. And I'm just astounded that there are people who just desperately try to shut you down when it's just a Twitch stream. I don't mean to belittle what you do. I mean, I do it too, but it's just a fucking Twitch stream.
Yeah, people, there's like a million different reasons we can go into. I remember I made a video on how to deal with content you don't like 5 years ago on my YouTube channel. And it's basically like, if there's a stream or a YouTube video or something that you don't really like, just leave, just close it out. It seems really strange how obsessed some people get, like building so much of their online presence around like hating other people. We just talked about this yesterday when Leafy made that video about Pokemon. That's somebody that people like obsess over hating. Like, I don't understand how somebody like Pokemon is a pretty non-controversial person. She doesn't do much like crazy shit. I mean, like, unless you really fucking hate Fortnite, I don't even know how much is there to absolutely fucking hate about a person. It's insane. But yeah.
Pokemon astounds me on that level too, because it does feel like it's almost like something that she's really known for, that she doesn't really stir the pot or say anything controversial. Yeah. She seems very like calm, very neutral, and just kind of like all around very relatable. And the fact that you can be that level of neutral and still get so much hate, really, it's one of the scarier parts of being online, and kind of one of the scarier parts of being an entertainer is you just want people to laugh and smile and enjoy your content. Mm-hmm. And you have to be willing to, by default, just accept this level of harassment and hate. It's a hard thing to wrap my head around. And weirdly, I already knew that I would be having to take that on as a streamer before I started. Like, I already knew that. Mm-hmm. But I kind of feel like at the moment, where I'm at with it is there are so many people with anxiety disorders, so many people with depression, so many people who have, struggles in their lives that might not have either the fortitude or just the mental energy to take on this level of harassment, but still have so much to offer and contribute to YouTube, to Twitch, to all of these platforms, to social media, who I just feel wouldn't be in a position to take this side of it on. And I don't think it's fair. That it's just something you have to accept.
Yeah, I don't think any normal, well-adjusted, emotionally healthy human being can take this level of harassment and not have like severe detriments. I don't think that like humans' minds are designed to have like incredibly personal, scathing remarks made about you on that order of magnitude by people that you've never met before every single day. If somebody told me that they had no problems with it, I would be incredibly wary of that person. There's got to be something wrong there, because almost every single streamer that I've had like a conversation with has had like at least one like pretty big emotional breakdown, or they've had to take like weeks or like a month break because it's just too much sometimes. And yeah, and then it sucks too, because for this job you can't really phone it in. Like, if you're working a 9 to 5 and you're having some shitty days, it's whatever. But on stream, if you're having some shitty days and you stream while you're having shitty days, well, then it gets even worse and worse and worse, and then people get like even more judgmental about it.
Yeah. I totally get what you mean with that. And to be honest, I kind of feel like I must be kind of fucked up then, because I haven't really had to take a break from it. It's not really ever gotten on top of me like that. Mm-hmm. The only times I've ever had to have a break because of harassment is not because of the emotional side, but just the kind of logistics of organizing police stuff and legal stuff.
For the stalker guy, yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Something that you said earlier also that's a little bit worrisome is you mentioned that like you use that word should, like in order to get in this job you should have to take a certain level of harassment. That does seem to be like the default position, that if you ever mention it publicly, although it's changed a bit over the past couple months obviously with all the conversations going on, that people on Reddit will say things like, well, hey, if you want to be a big YouTuber, of course you're going to get harassment. Like, well, if you're going to be a big Twitch streamer, well, yeah, obviously people are going to harass you. That's part of the job. And it's like, damn, that's kind of fucked up, but okay.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of that too, and where I kind of take issue with that is that what about people like me who never intended to be a big streamer? What if like this kind of level of success lands on your lap and like I was just someone socializing. I wasn't someone trying to make some big thing up. Twitch was a way to just have essentially much like a group call almost with everyone who wanted to play with me on Overwatch. It wasn't ever this plan that I had like this 24,000 step kind of formula for becoming a huge Twitch star, and you know that part of that would be to accept abuse and have everything in place to protect myself from it. And also, I kind of feel like this abuse quite often, the onset is long before you could ever afford security or all of the really naive suggestions I've been receiving to deal with it. I mean, a lot of people who are completely out of touch and have no fucking clue about the law and about the situation specifically that you're in will suggest things like get a gun, get a dog, get a boyfriend. And it's like, isn't trading my body for protection essentially trading sex for services? Like, I like since when is the default reaction to harassment prostitution? like some of the things that people suggest are just really fucking outlandish and ridiculous.
Not to mention that the whole concept of like get a gun, like is that on year 2 or 3 of streaming where I need to be assassinating people trying to break into my house? Like what part of the streaming like step to success is that? Like why would you even assume that like that's something that should be required if you want to be a streamer? Like that's pretty insane.
Yeah, and it feels like I'm being blamed because it's like if you're not a one-woman militia who knows every form of martial arts, has a specially trained canine guard dog, has like a huge repertoire of guns to choose from, and a big beefcake boyfriend and a security guard posted outside the front door 24/7, then it's your fault that this is happening to you. And it's like there are people who have like 20 to 40 average viewers who are getting really extreme, devastating abuse and harassment on a daily basis. Are they supposed to just magically materialize all of those things? And why is an expectation of any of us to be that just to make people laugh? It seems like an unfair thing to expect.
Definitely, I agree. The only problem is the type of people that need to, I guess, like heed this advice the most are usually the ones that are kind of like in their own secluded, crazy, isolated internet circles that don't really care anyway, or it's all just kind of a meme or a joke to them regardless, which is sad, but...
Yeah. And like there are loads of people trying to invite themselves to my house. I get messages constantly, especially to my business emails, saying, I don't really do much with my life. I'd like to come and live with you and protect you from this stalker. And it's like, yeah, inviting random men to my house sounds like the perfect solution. Yes, that doesn't sound like it's gonna make things worse at all. So yeah, I've been going through a slew of pressure and ridiculousness whilst trying to convince the police to do their jobs, and it's been a lot to handle, definitely.
The police and the internet stuff is really hard because a lot of them just don't understand. Like,
yeah, I totally agree. It's really unfortunate. I mean, are you willing to talk about any kind of police involvement you've had to handle with any of this?
Kind of. So, first 3 encounters I had with the FBI was back in 2012 maybe, or 2011. Some guy had basically decided that he was going to DDoS my internet every single day.
DDoS?
So basically it's where you have a whole bunch of infected computers and they're all trying to talk to your computer at the same time, and then your internet doesn't work because your computer's trying to do too many things at once and you can't, like, nothing works. Does that make sense? Yeah. So this guy basically had that type of service set up where he was shutting my internet down for weeks, and I couldn't stream. And I have a kid, I've got a house, I have like real life bills to pay. You know, this isn't just like, oh, I'm in high school streaming, lol. Like, it was like having a very big impact on my life. And this guy actually reached out to me to taunt me. And when I found out what his name was, because he reached out to me on a Skype name, we did a lot of work basically, but it got to the point to where I knew all of his information. I knew where he lived. I had all this shit. I called his dad to tell his dad, like, hey, your kid needs to fuck off. This is some bullshit. His dad told me to fuck off, basically said that his kid was a good kid, he'd never do anything. And then I started to call the police. And because it's like interstate thing, it had to be the FBI. And the first time the FBI came over, I was very blunt the entire time. I was like, oh, I do video games for a living, blah, blah. They didn't give a fuck. Second and third time I talked to the FBI, I tried to be a little bit more candid about what I did, because it seems like as soon as they figure out like what I do for work, they just don't care anymore. And my second and third conversations went absolutely nowhere anyway. After that, like they didn't care at all. They just couldn't give a fuck. I'm losing 5 figures like by now easily of like income, because you're a streamer. I'm sure you've had like, you're talking, you're chatting, stream's going good, your internet shuts down and you come back and you're losing half your viewers right when that shit happens. And yeah, that was a really, really, really bad experience that I had with the police with that ordeal. Later on, I had the FBI visit me one time because somebody forwarded them a clip saying I was going to blow up a school or something. It was like heavily edited out of like a League game, basically. Cops came, or FBI came to talk to me to see if I was going to blow up any schools. I said I wasn't. The second time, somebody showed up with some really old conversation I'd had relating to like underage fans at events, and they told the cops that I dealt child porn. So FBI showed up to ask me about if I had child pornography. And then the third time, somebody had sent an edited clip of me talking about like political violence with me like talking about my Glock, so it looked like I was talking about how like we need to kill Republicans and I was gonna go out and do it. So FBI came to my house and talked to me about that. So these are all my like the last 3 experiences. Usually the FBI just shows up and talks to me. The first experiences that I had though, trying to get them to do anything, nothing came from it. So I don't ever rely on the cops for help. It seems like it's kind of like everybody's out for themselves on everything, because the police just don't give a fuck about any online shit at all. Sorry, that was a lot of shit. Yeah, okay.
No, that's really good. That's really illuminating. I mean, where were you in the world when this was going on? Like,
for the very first FBI visit I had, first 2 were in my house talking about the DDoS kid. Third one was in Florida, Miami, it was in some place in Florida because I was living with somebody else at the time. I was hoping because it was a different office that it would be better, but it wasn't. And then the other 3 visits were at the house right now that I have in Omaha, where my kid's mom and my child live. And Nebraska.
So it seems like you've had a little sample of loads of different places and still not really had enough help or not been taken seriously.
No, not usually, no. No, and then I send them stuff because I get like people making, because I mailed, because after they'd visited me the third time, the guy gave me his card and he was like, hey, if you want to give me a heads up on anything so we don't have to have these talks, just email me. So I forward him stuff every now and then, like, hey, here's a forum of people. They're posting the address of my kid's mom. Here's like, there was screenshots that I have of this guy on Reddit that tells people like, if you're gonna email the FBI about Destiny, make sure that you include his name and address. Make sure that you say he's making threats against the school. Make sure that you say he has a gun right now, like all this shit. But nothing ever comes of it. They don't follow up on anything. So it's whatever, I guess.
That's just, it's so devastating. And yeah, I'm hearing exactly the same thing from people all over the world that I've spoken to about this, is that it doesn't matter where you are, it doesn't matter what police department you're dealing with, it's not taken seriously. I mean, it doesn't surprise me at all. When I was talking to, every single time the police have come out to my house, they've not known what doxing is, they've not known that it's illegal, they've not known what streaming is. They didn't even know what Twitch is. And many of them were just like, well, just have you considered not streaming? It's like, there's a dude threatening to kill me all the time. There's a dude like camping out in my backyard and, chasing me around and threatening to, kill me with a knife. And, you guys have caught him on the way to my house with a knife. And you're just saying, have you thought about not streaming? Like, just...
It's frustrating because if you compare it to any other job, like when I was doing the DDoS stuff, like the cops don't care, but this is the equivalent of me walking to your house and slashing your tires every single fucking morning in broad daylight. Every morning, I just slash your tires and you've got to pay for, hundreds of dollars more tires every single day. Like somebody would care then, right? Or if somebody was stalking you and following your job, somebody would care then. But because it's like internet video games and nerds and geeks, it's like all of it is like a joke. Like none of it, it's all just like, are you playing Pac-Man online or whatever? And like that's it. They have no idea and they don't care at all. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's insane because, there are already streamers that have either lost their life or been physically attacked and utterly traumatized by these people when they take it too far. Once your address and everything is out there, it's not information that you can just take off the internet. It's just out there permanently. As I'm sure you're aware with, your nudes. And this is kind of like, this is the devastating side of it, is that it's not being taken seriously, and we're like, it shouldn't be a requirement to put your life on the line for this.
Yeah, unfortunately, this is kind of dark, but it feels like it's probably going to take a couple people getting killed, and then people will look into it more seriously. Like, I think swatting got a lot more attention nationwide when that one guy was killed by the cops when he got swatted, and then, yeah, the cops showed up. And did they kill him, or did they kill his neighbor on accident? I don't remember, but, yeah.
I don't remember the case specifically.
Oh, in the U.S., it was a really big deal. I think this guy got a lot of jail time for it.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
A lot of this, are you familiar with what swatting means?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a pretty common thing. Well, not super common, but like it happens like pretty often in the U.S. and usually nobody gets in trouble for it. Like it just is never. I guess it's probably hard. Another thing that sucks too is that it's really hard to follow up on a lot of this stuff as well. I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there are several obstacles right now that need to be addressed, but I think a huge aspect of it would be verifying accounts on Twitch, because a lot of it is about being able to use Twitch anonymously, and a lot of it is about being able to use throwaway accounts in order to constantly spam even after being banned. And these sorts of things are completely avoidable. And I do think that measures need to be taken before someone else loses their life. I genuinely do think that there is more that, you know, can be adjusted on the platform to make it safer. But I also think that the police definitely need to take it seriously. I wonder if I'm going to be one of the people that's like, you know, going to have to pay for this and going to have to, you know, potentially lose their life before anything's done. And I kind of feel like it's really fucking unfair that I can't, as a living, breathing person, have as much impact on whether or not this changes than if I fucking die. And I already know that. Like, I already know that if I died, they'd probably do more than they're doing now. But because I have to live in misery and fear, and because it's difficult to do basic stuff, it's not enough and it's not severe enough for it to be changed or taken seriously. And I just don't think it should be that way around. I don't think they should be waiting until something worse happens to me or anyone.
Yeah. Yeah, unfortunately, that's like such a hard line to walk. It's really fun. I joke about this all the time with, I've got a friend that we play League of Legends, and back when you're like an internet nobody, you know, anonymity is really important to you. You don't want anybody to know who you are. You definitely don't want sites to know who you are. But now when we play games, you know, we're like, there should be social security numbers tied. Like every single account should have your passport tied to it. If you harass somebody, your shit should get leaked on the internet. Like, wait, like, because when you're a streamer, like, well, now all of a sudden everybody knows who you are. So now it feels kind of shitty where it's like, okay, well, you guys are all anonymous on the internet, but I'm not. So I have to deal with, you know, an insane, I have infinite levels of accountability. If I fuck up or if I say anything bad at all, I'm going to be held accountable. But I'm dealing with a whole bunch of people that have no accountability, that can do crazy shit. And that feels like very one-sided. Like, it's very frustrating to deal with that. I know that some games have like priority queues or better queues if you like verify with a phone number. I know that in Steam, CSGO did that. I think Dota does that. Maybe some service like that for like verified Twitch accounts could be a thing or something, but yeah.
Yeah, I genuinely do think that verifying or two-step verification would make all the difference. Because even just having to verify that your account is linked to a phone number, I know that like while people are willing to go to a lot of effort buying like 50 phones to get 50 SIMs to get 50 numbers to have 50 accounts seems a lot less doable on average and would reduce the amount of harassment exponentially.
Yeah, depending who it is. Unfortunately, it's a lot easier today to get a phone number. You can get like infinite phone numbers on Google Voice or other sites, unfortunately, so you don't have to buy the phones. But yeah, and then
it would be a start to just have some verification and also have something that would be very, very difficult to duplicate over and over again, or have limits on how many times you can connect an account to a certain detail or something like this.
Yeah.
These sorts of things would be a really brilliant way to start reducing botting and, you know, constant spamming by people that you've already banned. Because right now it feels like everything that we can do doesn't really impact people who harass us, because there are ways to get around it very easily. And even though that's been known for a very long time, it hasn't changed. And the amount of suffering and devastation that's caused in people's lives just is just it's insane, absolutely fucking insane. So yeah, I just kind of at the point where I'm exasperated, and yeah, for me going through all of this lately, I just feel like I don't want to just solve it for me, because after Twitter, because the police were telling me it's not in the public interest for us to put time and effort into pursuing this. So for now, we're stopping it. After the tweets, it gained traction. People kept contacting the Met, and after that, mysteriously, they picked up the case again and became unusually motivated all of a sudden, out of nowhere.
Yeah.
But I'm still being told that it's not likely that it will actually amount to anything, and so I've kind of lost hope. And I kind of feel like I'm just out there for myself at this point, which is totally unfair because what this person is doing is actually illegal, and they know how to get the evidence. They refuse to secure it. And if they had gone and got that evidence, he'd already be in prison by now. So I'd be safe by now. And I kind of feel that everything about this needs to change. And it shouldn't be down to whether or not I can get enough likes on a fucking tweet.
Yeah.
The level of motivation and the value for my safety should be based on, the fact that I am a citizen. I pay my taxes. I expect a certain level of safety that would be awarded to anyone else trying to do their fucking job. And I think that should be way more, that should be the reason why I get help, not because I have enough attention on Twitter. That's insane.
Yeah. Do you guys have restraining orders in the UK, or how do those work?
I have one.
Does
and
it
he's ignoring it.
And that doesn't do anything in the UK, or do they just not want to do anything about it?
Or just not enforcing it.
Oh, gotcha. I think the way that it works in the US is it's pretty easy to get a restraining order, and then if somebody violates a restraining order that's supposed to be like actionable, like you should be able to call the cops if somebody is violating it. But I don't know how. I've never had a restraining order, I guess, in the US before, so I've never tried to get one enforced or anything.
It's the same here in the UK, but right now it's just that they're not doing anything about it. They know that it's happening, and it just feels very like they're not very motivated.
Yeah. One of the things that I like about on my website, I have like my own chat room and everything, and I have a lot of moderation tools that help. That I think Twitch is finally starting to get. I think they've got some of these, but like for instance, like the inability to see connected accounts on Twitch is really annoying. So on my side, if somebody is like making multiple accounts with the same IP address, like I can see like, hey, all 10 of these people are you, or see like email addresses they registered with and stuff. Like this stuff can be like very handy if there's like crazy harassment. Like a lot of the really crazy people that have been involved in like doxing members of my community or me myself, like we've only been able to find out who they are because of like information that they've entered on the site that like, hey, like if you ask somebody else, like, do you have this registered email? And some people will communicate with you and you can find out. It sucks that Twitch won't help you moderate at all in regards to that. Like, I don't think on Twitch you can even IP ban people, right? Like if I ban an account, it literally just bans that account. They could just make another account and come right back into chat. It's not even an IP ban, right?
I think it is, and as far as I know, it is an IP ban, but it doesn't count for anything because most people use a VPN.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Oh, people are saying they recently added on Twitch you can IP ban. Oh, okay, well that's nice at least then. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
But
so that is a thing, but it doesn't really make a difference, and it hasn't made a difference in my case.
Yeah. Otherwise, I don't like to say it's uncomfortable to say it out loud, but it really feels like if somebody wants to get you, depending on the size and scale you are, it feels like somebody could do it probably. And it seems like there's not much recourse.
Yep.
I don't even bother to hide. I remember that after I moved in Omaha, I was going to try to be really careful about like leaking my address or showing outside or whatever. And I remember that the day or like the week that I moved, I had a fan that emailed me and he's like, hey, I know that you're trying to be careful, but just, like there are people talking like you're like the county registrar where you like transfer the deed to the house. Like you can look that up publicly. So now everybody can see like the house you just bought. It's like, oh, okay, well, this is all a fucking waste of time, I guess. Like, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And then some countries, wait, I'm sorry. Hold on. Are you streaming right now?
No.
No. Oh, okay. Hold on. I have to mute for 1 second. Okay, sorry. Yeah. But yeah, anyway, yeah, the whole finding people's information online and shit and then like finding them in real life was really fucking weird.
Oh, I see. I understand what you mean.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Sorry, it took me a second to just realize what you just did.
Oh, sorry. Oh, yeah. Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah. But yeah, it's been really, really challenging, and it feels like you've gone through so much, and it must be really nerve-wracking, especially with your kid, and you know just how far people are willing to take this.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it does really feel like so far the running trend is the police don't give a shit. It doesn't matter where you go. It doesn't matter who you're talking to.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's willing to do anything, and people are going to pay with their lives for this.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
I think it's a certainty at this point. Like, it's already happened. There's absolutely no change.
Mm-hmm.
It'll happen again. Like, you know, we already know it's possible. We already know it's been going on. There is absolutely nothing in place where, like, people's attitudes have changed, the police's attitudes have changed, anything.
Mm-hmm. There's, you know who Soda Poppin is, right?
Mm-hmm.
He literally had, this was some number of years ago, but I think he literally had, like, a fan show up at his house with their mom or whatever to like visit him and say hi and shit after he'd like explicitly been like, hey, like I don't want anybody coming to my house. Like this has actually happened before to him, which is really fucking weird. So
Wow. Do you have anything that you would like to see change about all of this?
I have a very cynical, nihilistic view of everything. I figure that like yeah, I try to get everything managed myself. I don't rely on Twitch for anything or the police because it doesn't seem like they'll do anything. So like I just keep your ear to the ground, see what people are talking about. But other than that, it'd be nice if it was all taken more seriously, but I just don't know how to make anybody care that much about it, unfortunately.
Yeah, I don't think that the general public at large just know how persistent and pervasive it is. I don't think many people really think about like the darker side of Twitch streaming very often and just how common this is. I don't really see a lot of public investment in keeping us safer. So many people are willing to consume our content, but they don't really care what happens to us or what we have to put on the line to give it to them. And I really, really, really would love that to change because, you know, if people are willing to give up money and time, hours and hours of their time to watch us, and they're willing to, you know, contribute so much to keep us going, it kind of feels like this is one of the most vital and most biggest steps that, you know, the platform can take and all the viewers of any streamer on this platform can take is to actually get invested in our safety, you know?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I don't really know. Like I said, I never rely on Twitch for anything because it seems like they're so inadequate when it comes to certain things, especially moderation. But yeah, I'm always willing to help if you can think of any ideas or whatever, or ways to get those types of initiatives off the ground, I guess. One, do you think I'm asking more for the chat than anything else, or to hear your answer. Do you think that you being a woman has anything to do with it, with the type of harassment or the type of treatment you get?
Dude, you just talked about your kid being threatened. I mean, I think that it's across the board. I'm hearing stories from everyone. I'm going to be interviewing another person who's gone through a similar thing with their, you know, their partner and their children being threatened and them constantly being harassed. I don't think this is a gender issue. I think this is a streamer issue.
I feel like there are special types of harassment that women get that are pretty unique to women. Something that I remember dealing with a long time. Well, because I knew a lot of people that were dealing with it and was kind of helping them with the issue. Was it would be really common for certain, I don't want to call them hackers, but certain types of people that will go from like very low viewership streamer girls from one to the other, trying to hack their accounts, get some piece of information, and then ask for like nudes or pictures of them with the person's name written on it. That was like a really common phenomenon where people would bounce around like low viewership women streamers to get stuff like that. It's like super fucked up.
I genuinely don't think that those people should have access to society. I think the minute you want to, I think, you know, there should be really fucking harsh prison sentences for that kind of thing because these people are highly invested in and titillated by misery. And those people just don't deserve a society they have nothing positive to contribute to. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, it's pretty fucked up, yeah.
Yeah, it's infuriating. You know, but I'm not in the least bit fucking surprised. And I'm not surprised that dudes probably don't experience that level of harassment in that specific way as often as women would. And that doesn't surprise me at all. I think that the harassment overall and the generalized distress and the aim to cause distress and to shut people and their streams down is the common thread. Yes, the brand of misery that they inflict is different depending on, race, gender, all sorts of things, attributes, arbitrary things that shouldn't really matter about you in that respect.
Sure.
But I think the common uniting thread is that they want you to be afraid, they want you to be miserable, they want you to be scared. And yes, I do think that most people wouldn't be able to handle the pressure of that. Most people, when they first start streaming, aren't prepared for that, don't realize that it goes on.
Yeah.
And yes, there doesn't seem to be enough in place to protect people from it at all. And I just kind of feel like nobody usually gets this. You don't have to go through any of this to work in IT. Like if someone sat in the room with you and, started trying to blackmail you, threatened your children, tried to blackmail you for nudes, this sort of thing in person, the police would come and deal with them and it would be really obvious that it's wrong. I think literally the main barrier is that it's the nature of this new industry that's just popped up, and it's just kind of like we're in this stage where it's just not as protected as it could be, and perhaps will be down the line.
Yeah. What's your goal, I guess, with this? What's your plan? Are you trying to exert more pressure on Twitch or on local police, or?
I have been thinking it through very carefully. And I want to listen to the people who've been going through this and what they would like to see change. And I'm not going to speak for them. I'm just going to give them a platform to say what they'd like to see first, and then weigh in and kind of see how much I can contribute to making that happen after I've heard everyone, after I've gotten everything together. So I'm not fully decided on that one yet.
I think what I can think of for like a first good step for like a Twitch chat, I think having a verified user only chat would be good. Verified with like a 2-factor authentication, like a phone number or something, I think would be a good step in the right direction.
Yeah.
And then you can leave it up to the streamer for whether or not they want to enforce that, like turn that on or turn that off.
Yeah. I think what you said about it being really one-sided, that in order to be a streamer, you have to volunteer this much about yourself, but nobody in chat has to volunteer anything. I think that the way that you put that was really, really succinct and a very, very good point about all of this. It doesn't seem fair that in order to entertain people, you have to put yourself out there and be attacked by loads of anonymous people. I think it should be a level playing field where, if your details are on the line, then you shouldn't be able to access it anonymously because it's too risky and it leads to situations like this where people fucking die. There are people who've been hiding in their cupboard with their partners because someone's broken in trying to murder their partner to replace them. There are people who've been murdered and had their pictures posted all over Reddit of their body.
I remember seeing the I don't want to get graphic, but those that were posted on 4chan, I remember were posted around a lot for a particular person that, one thing to keep in mind, I'm playing the other side of the argument as well, though. Unfortunately, the thing that makes this harder is that right now we're talking about ourselves as the victims and then the anonymous crowd as the aggressors. The reason why it's so hard to get so much information from the crowd, though, is that sometimes those tables can turn, where even though it sucks that I have to deal with an inordinate amount of hate to be a streamer, if I target somebody and I have a lot of information about them, I can bring the world down on that person, too, in a way that they're not ready for. So, for instance, if you harass a streamer and they have all of your information, they can target you with their entire fan base, and most people aren't ready for that level. Like, people will delete their accounts off the complete and total internet if they're not ready to get attacked by a streamer like that, which is like the other side of the equation, unfortunately.
Historically, has that ever happened, though?
Yeah, I used to do that to people, so yeah. It's definitely
happened. Oh, well.
Yeah, or like people talk about this all the time, where like I mean, I would like to say I did it to people that deserved it or whatever, but everybody feels that way. But like any time like a streamer gets into a fight with somebody, like on Twitter or on YouTube or on Facebook or on Instagram or whatever, like it'll happen where even between two streamers of different sizes. Like if a streamer that gets like, oh, Keemstar is a perfect example of this, for a guy that like targets random people sometimes. And like, there was that old guy that streams whatever that he accused of being a pedophile or something, who like had a massive breakdown because of Keemstar targeting that guy. Or if you've ever seen, it's a really good TED talk about a guy that talks about how disproportionate the internet can be sometimes. This isn't somebody being targeted by a particular person, but like sometimes somebody will tweet something kind of dumb and their whole life will be destroyed and they won't realize it. A lady hopped on a plane on her way to Africa, and she's like, oh, on my way to Africa, I hope I don't get AIDS. Oh, I probably won't because I'm white. And that tweet, by the time she landed, her whole life was over. She'd lost her job. Like all of her socials were like under attack. Like it was insane. So yeah, like like individuals that get targeted by that amount of hate can also get like really screwed up as well, which is why people don't want to give their information online too. So
yeah, but as it stands, the risk is one-sided. But also, I kind of feel like when a streamer does this, it's much easier to prove intent as well. Like I'm not just saying that we should be the only ones who get protected. Yes, there should be protection. It should be that we are liable if we dox someone's information, if we induce harassment towards somebody because we got hold of their details. I think it would be very easy and very obvious to prove when someone was releasing details like that, specifically with intent to cause harm. And that's already illegal in this country, to dox someone's details with the intent to cause harassment and harm and incite other people to to start harassing someone. So already that's illegal. It's just a matter of enforcement. Yeah. And so I feel like it should work both ways. I'm not saying that we should be the only ones that are protected. I do believe that, viewers should be protected from that level of, betrayal, I guess, if someone in your community,
that's true.
receives that.
Yeah. It is easier to hold streamers accountable than random strangers right now, yeah.
Yes, exactly. So I do feel like it's literally a matter of enforcement with that, because it's already illegal.
Yeah. True.
Because I don't think that just because streamers have been because there's this psychological thing where we tend to perceive victims as innocent, and whenever we become perpetrators, we tend to justify the dissonance by convincing ourselves that these people deserved it even when they don't. And so with all of those psychological mechanisms, it's very easy for this whole narrative to be presented as us innocent streamers just need help and we've never done a thing wrong. And I completely agree that, streamers should be held accountable, and that there probably are people out there who would definitely take advantage of the ability to, turn the tables, perhaps to an extreme and unnecessary degree sometimes. And, I think that should be just as enforceably clap down on.
For sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I disagree at all.
Yeah.
Harassment sucks, but it's kind of part of it. Yeah.
Is there anything you wanted to ask me?
Do you I don't know how specific this is to this conversation, but do you still find people online that don't believe that you have Tourette's?
Oh yeah, constantly. That's never going to go away, I don't think. I think it's for so many reasons too. I think one of the reasons is that so many people have a hard time understanding how complex an involuntary action can be. Because of that, because there's things like sleepwalking. There are people who sleep eat, sleep drive, get dressed, have conversations with their partners in their sleep. It's very possible to have involuntary actions that are very, very complex. But for a lot of people, that's not really very easily understood. And when people don't understand something, they distrust it. And I don't know a single person with Tourette syndrome who hasn't gone through this level of doubt, sometimes even from their own family. I mean, I was definitely doubted by my own family growing up, and it was hell. I actually was constantly called an attention seeker. They thought I was doing it on purpose to get attention. And so one time I broke my arm really badly and they didn't believe me. And one of my family members actually shook my arm saying, see, it's not broken. And they heard all the bones crunching underneath the skin. That was kind of the level of just kind of doubt and aggression I've received. So seeing as it's no different from my day-to-day to contend with, I just didn't care that I was going to be facing it online. I just really didn't. And I expected more of it. I expected the ratio to be more doubt than support. And what I've actually found is that people are tremendously wholesome, and by majority I've been very well accepted. And, you know, I've had so much encouragement and support from the platform too. Like Twitch has really supported me and been really kind and understanding, especially when I've said things that are bannable offenses because of my coprolalia, which is the spoken word side of Tourette syndrome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was going to ask, this is kind of a darker way to view it, but do you think that like the harassment and bullying you received growing up because of your Tourette's like prepared you for streaming?
To a degree, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I think my rescue work did more so because I was often taken out to call outs where people were directly abusing animals. And
Mm-hmm.
obviously, if you're going to be taking evidence to potentially prosecute people and, you know, to intervene when people feel perfectly good about what they're doing, they're going to try and stop you, try to harass you. They'll hate you. They'll, you know, try to interfere with your life. I've already experienced it. And I feel like that prepared me way more than my childhood did, if I'm honest.
Mm-hmm.
So I felt like I have grown accustomed to this level of aggression and doubt and ridicule, and I just want to carry on enjoying my life anyway. I keep telling people in chat, like, people are going to judge you no matter who you are. I could be the most perfect person in the world and people would still find a reason to hate me.
Mm-hmm.
So I might as well enjoy doing what I love instead of hating myself along with them because I'm being fake in order to fit a slot that won't even spare me the hate.
What do you do when people are being like incredibly aggressive on, or actually let's back up, simpler question. Do you read anything about you if you get a big threat on LSF? Do you read that at all, or do you ignore it, or if, like your Twitter like mentions or whatever, do you go through any of this stuff, public comments about you, or do you just kind of ignore it?
Yeah, I see most of it.
So most people, when they read negative feedback about themselves online, have like a visceral negative reaction to it. Do you just not feel that way at all, or did you initially and then you found ways to deal with it? Or I guess, how do you feel when you're taking that kind of like incredibly negative feedback into account? So people saying you make your voice up, or you're just a titty streamer, or faking your whatever, like I'm sure you've seen a million different things. Yeah.
Fuck off, faggot. I tend to fuck men. I tend to take it in my stride, really. I don't get as frustrated as most people would. I kind of feel I don't know. In the beginning, I found it quite shocking the level of hate I would get for really basic little things.
Mm-hmm.
But then after a while, I grew quite numb to it, and that happened really, really early on. I was all over live stream fails when I first arrived on the scene, and so like it took me like a week or two to just be like, because it seems so irrational and so extreme. I already know that half the assholes who post this stuff would never ever be held that accountable for anything in their life because nobody gives a fuck about it. Like, nobody cares who they date. Nobody cares whether they've cheated or not. Nobody cares who they play games with, or how they talk in a game, or what they say, or what medical conditions they have, or about any of their gossip. Nothing. Like, nobody's wages or safety or, anything is incumbent on the average day-to-day shit a human normally experiences and navigates.
It's hard to... In terms of what you just said, like, a lot of people don't realize what it's like for, like, so somebody like me or Chance or Asmongold or like some of the other streamers, we've been streaming like hundreds of hours every year for 10 years. All of the worst moments of your life are out there online for everybody to judge. This is like a minuscule, infinitesimal, like very small portion of the population that will ever even know what that's like. Like, everybody has said or done some dumb shit. The difference between me and one of those people is that's not out there on the internet for everybody to judge until the end of time. Like, I still get people that attack me for shit that I was involved in like 2012 and 2013. Like, and it's like, dog, this is like 7 or 8 or 9 years ago. So I was like, why are you even bringing this up anymore? Like, if you're the same person you were 8 years ago, like, I feel bad for you, dude. Especially because half of you guys are like 23, 22 on the internet. Like, come on, like, you were 12 years old when I said this shit. What the fuck?
Yeah, I definitely do feel like there needs to be a cultural shift now that more and more jobs are online, where it's okay to visibly grow on the internet. I feel like if you want people to change, if you want people who create content to be better people, then you have to accept that they are going to be improving over time, and that there is going to be a best of that person and a worst of that person. I feel like cancel culture is tremendously immature and counterproductive. Because the fact of the matter is that so many of the people that we're trying to cancel, so many people that, they're trying to cancel are people that are 10 million times more funny, entertaining, and have so much more reach than the people that they approve of will ever fucking get. And that means that if you want millions of people to have a better, more mature kind of interaction, you're going to have to let the people who can reel in those numbers and entertain people to that degree become that mature person. That doesn't happen overnight. We all make mistakes. Nobody cartwheels out of the womb a perfect human being that never fucks up. We don't have perfect opinions. We develop them and grow them and make them better and better over time. None of us is perfect. None of us ever learnt to be a good person by just being perfect by default. That's not a normal or reasonable expectation of a human being. And it's so weird and dehumanizing to have that constant pressure on you as an entertainer. Like, why? Why does everyone forget what humanity and human experience is like when it's other people making the mistakes? When you just fucking know that if it was them, they'd diminish all of their mistakes and overplay all of their strong suits. They'd downplay every time they fucked up. They'd blame their environment and not their character, because that's what people do. They have a confirmation bias. But when it's other people, they overplay the person's character and downplay the external influences. We're not allowed to be tired. We're not allowed to be dumb. We're not allowed to be uneducated on a topic before we speak. Yeah. These things are things that everybody else has, and it's inconsequential. Everyone has a dumb moment or an ill thought out concept, and we're not allowed any of them.
There's I've talked to train wrecks about this before. There's actually a very specific name for what you're talking about. It's called the correspondence bias or fundamental attribution error, where basically when you make a mistake, you emphasize environmental reasons, and when somebody else makes a mistake, it's like emphasizing character reasons. So if you fuck up, well, you were tired while somebody else was doing something, well, blah, 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 like it wasn't your fault. But if somebody else fucks up, like they're a horrible fucking human being and there's no excuse for what they did. And it's like, okay, dude. And I think something really important that you brought up that is kind of like, I don't want to get too far into like cancel culture or whatever. It's like, it seems like we really don't give people an opportunity to learn and grow. Like, it feels like you can have a guy today, like, get on Twitter and, like, call 20 people the N-word, and then you can have a guy that, like, 10 years ago tweeted a racist joke, but is otherwise, like, a normal and, like, a fine person today. And, like, the level of backlash these two people get feels comparable sometimes. Like, it's really crazy to me that, like, when somebody digs up something that somebody did, like, 10 years ago, the James Gunn stuff for Disney comes to mind. I don't know if you followed that at all. Guardians of the Galaxy director. He had been involved in making, like, really edgy movies, basically, but it was like literally in 2009, I think, and people dug this up again, and then he got like kicked off the next like Guardians of the Galaxy movie, and it was like, these are like 10 years old, like what are you guys doing? People go crazy over finding really old shit and stuff, and it seems like this is kind of a joke that I made recently on Twitch, but like if you ever get caught doing something bad or something leaks in the past bad, your best bet is to just never own up to it and never admit it, because it's happened where stuff has gotten leaked about streamers, and we actually just recently saw with the wave of sexual allegations and everything, where they just didn't say fucking anything about it, and then they started streaming like 5 days later, like, fuck it, dude, I don't know what happened, like crazy shit, we're gonna be in sub-only mode for a while, and they're just streaming and they're fucking fine. But then other people, like I remember, do you know Jenna, the streamer? She had logs leaked where she said she made a couple of dumb jokes. Admittedly, they were stupid, but fuck, she must have been like 17 or something when she made these. It was like 2 years old, and she came out and she made a big fucking apology for it, and she lost partnership. And it's like, well, what's the message you're sending? Like, she should have just shut the fuck up and not said anything. She should have just never admitted. She'd be like, oh, those logs were doctored, don't know about it, and then just moved on, because people have had way worse shit leaked about them that they just don't admit to, and nothing ever happens to them,
Yeah, and I'm finding as well that if you come forward about anything that's happened to you, so like with the Me Too movement, so many women just talked about what they experienced and got rejected so fucking harshly by Twitch, the community, so shat on, so harassed, so many people got angry at them. And, I already knew as a woman, I've seen this 1,000 times, you come forward, you have to take on not only what's happened to you, but people hating you for having gone through it and doubting you. And so, it's not just having fucked up that gets you cancelled. It's other people's fuck-ups that can get you cancelled. If you ever speak up about any kind of sexual assault or anything like that, you can get just as quickly cancelled and hated and harassed. You can take on more hate in some situations than, people who've done really fucked up stuff.
Yeah.
It's skewed, it's unjust. It's kind of like the court of public opinion, and it's really, really genuinely devastating. And I kind of feel like we're in a teething stage because, these sorts of jobs are really new. They're kind of you know, we're on uncharted territory, and there isn't enough in place to, like, there's no guidebook on how to handle any of this. Not at all. Like, I hit the ground running. I went from like 20 concurrent viewers my first stream to a few hundred within a week or two, I think, and then 15,000 concurrents. And I was just like, I don't know what this means or what's going on. I'm so fucking lucky that I hit the scene at the age that I did after the experiences that I had, because if I didn't, I'd have probably ended up being hated, harassed. I've probably ended up in a situation with, you know, stalkers coming to my house a lot sooner. You know, I feel like nothing really prepares you. There's no guidebook, there's no default, and, you know, even from streamer to streamer, what you have to contend with and why is so different. I mean, the things that I contend with my condition are going to be so different to what you contend with because of, you know, the political nature of your discussions. These things are wildly different. There's no one generic handbook that will save us, any of us. So yeah, it's going to be hard and it's going to be scary for a long time as yet, I feel. No matter what changes we make immediately now, there's still going to be stuff to feel out down the line before it's genuinely safe, before, you know, people don't have to put their lives on the line, before people don't have to put their kids on the line, before people, you know, genuinely have the right to access this level of work and, you know, just make people laugh and educate and do the things that they're passionate about, create the content they're passionate about without having to pay potentially the ultimate price for it.
Yeah, for sure. Do you feel like people take you pretty seriously when you talk about it outside of like the like police community? Like, have you had conversations with anybody at Twitch or?
Yeah, I mean, I've talked to Twitch. I've given them details of what's going on, and for now, this is about as much as I'm gonna say, because I'm kind of just waiting to see what happens with that and where it goes, and if anything changes before I say anything or give an overview on that. Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, damn.
But it's just an insane thing to have to, it's just, yeah, the thing I can't get over is just how ridiculous it is. I just want to make people laugh. I just want to play computer games. I just want to get drunk with my friends on a Saturday night and stream. I never wanted it to be like this serious and this scary.
Yeah, it feels like when you get into streaming, you learn a lot of stuff that you never wanted to know, depending on the size that you get to very quickly. Yeah.
Gorilla.
Well, fuck. Is there anything else you wanted to go over related to this, or?
Fuck off. No, I think that's literally everything. Thank you so much for sharing everything that you've been through, and yeah, you've given me a lot to think about. And
have you ever contacted like a local like media person about
a lot of them? A lot of them have got in contact with me, but I'm really, really, really hyper fucking cautious because I had a really bad experience with Kotaku. So
wait, with Nathan? Yeah. Do you know which?
No, it wasn't Nathan.
Okay.
But yeah, that article is still up, and basically it cast a huge amount of doubt on my condition and whether or not I had it. That lady harassed me so much for my medical details and said, we're not going to run the story unless you give me your diagnosis letters, your full name, you know, everything about you. And I was like, there's no way I'm giving that to the media. How dumb do you think I am? You know, I want to be safe. Because I wouldn't do that. She was incredibly suspicious of me, not understanding that I just wanted to be safe. Because this sort of shit happens where like I'm trying not to get killed. So yeah, she put this massive article that's very long-winded and essentially cast a lot of doubt on my condition. Loads of people came to hate on me, and I got aggression, so much aggression and abuse as a result of that article. So I know that sometimes people pressure for personal details I would never give anybody. And she was actually complaining in the article that she wrote that she couldn't find me on social media, that I suddenly popped into existence out of nowhere. And that someone so polished and someone with so much success could suddenly arrive without ever having been anything like an entertainer or anything before seemed dubious to her too. And so she kind of like, there was insinuations that maybe I was some sort of actor and all this sort of stuff. And so I'm having a lot of people who want to get in contact with the police and get a statement from the police about my case in specific. And in order to do that, they need certain details. They've been asking that could potentially dox me. And they're just like, don't worry, we won't put that in the article. And all I have is their word. And I don't trust it for shit because it's the media. I think it'd be incredibly dumb. And as a policy in general, I don't give that out to anyone, no matter what story they're writing, even if it's to help me, even if they're sympathetic to my cause. No, just all the fucking no. And so one of the biggest pressures I'm having right now is that so many people want to cover my story, and I want the coverage because I want something to be done and I want public investment. But at the same time, they're asking for details and pressuring me constantly and harassing me constantly for details that there's no way I'd be safe giving. And it's kind of a really awkward position to be in.
Mm-hmm. I know the writer that you're talking about. She has reached out to fans to do a story on me too. I would say it feels bad to say this because I don't want to feed into the meme narratives too much. I would say don't let Kotaku taint your view of a lot of larger publications, because they definitely do things a certain way there that I don't know is necessarily industry norm. If you're working with larger publications, they usually do a great deal of work to try to make sure that their reporting is as accurate as possible and that they're not like slanting things in a certain way. They'll usually send you articles to preview. You may or may not know all this. I'm just saying, don't let that experience ruin everything. Is there any way to get like some like friendly version that like confirms like a diagnosis and a first name or something that wouldn't require you to like reveal too many details or something, if that's something that people commonly ask for?
I feel like, firstly, I don't give a shit whether people believe me. I'm still going to have Tourette's, whether these tics aren't going to magically go away. I'm not going to be cured or be like, oh, I can drop the act now if people don't believe me. Like, it's just going to be there either way. I'm not invested in proving it to anybody. And secondly, even if I was, there's nothing that can legitimately just be knocked up in Photoshop or printed out that I could provide. Unless it's like that you can actually check on the details and verify that they are true to some degree, it's a useless piece of paper. And so I would literally have to dox myself to a very, very big degree in many, many different ways in order to show any kind of documentation to the public or to the media.
I wouldn't say never to the public, of course, but the only thing is I can understand journalists being a little worried because you don't want to write a piece on somebody that it comes out that like everything was fake or whatever. Obviously it sucks for you to have to deal with that, but then I can kind of empathize with both ends there.
Yeah, I mean, I have previously with my management, I gave them my medical records so they could look over, and they were willing to publicly come forward and state, yeah, we've seen our medical records and we can vouch. So that was really cool of them, and to have that kind of backing on an official degree and have witnesses to it that it doesn't involve me necessarily having to breach my safety or privacy. So that's one of the ways that I've gotten around it in the past, but people just didn't trust it because it was my management. But I didn't really care so long as like whenever I tried to arrange brand deals or whatever, like the companies could go, is this legit or is it an act? And my management could go, for example, yeah, we've seen the medical records, it's legit. So
for sure,
it was handy enough just to have that. But I have a friend who streams with Tourette syndrome, and he actually has a command in chat where you can get a link to his medical records and look them over yourself. Yeah, and it kind of feels really sad that people feel like they have to go to that degree, but it's also hard on him, especially because people can catch tics off each other.
Yeah,
like contagious. So so he's got a lot of mine because he's watched a lot of my content, and so people think that he's seen my condition as some sort of cash cow and is imitating it to garner sympathy or views. And so I can see why he's got like an additional pressure on top of the doubt in general for having Tourette's. Also, having that kind of slant on it too, I could see why he felt the need to do that. And put that out there.
There's actually there's something that I've talked about this in the past. But one of the things that you're in is I call this a lose-lose-lose situation, where when people are attacking you over like making personal claims that are false about your life, you have like 3 options and all of them suck. One is to just completely and totally ignore it, in which case people think that you're just not talking about it because they're right. So like rumors fester, people make up more shit. The second thing is to come out and flatly deny it, but not offer any proof. And then it's like, well, of course you're denying it. It looks bad, but, until you actually post some proof or something, like, well, obviously you're lying. And then you look bad for denying something but not proving it. And then the third one is to actually come out with personal information to 100%, like, now you guys see that you're wrong. But anytime you start leaking personal information about yourself, well, now people have new things to latch onto. Like, oh, there was a typo in your medical diagnosis. I bet it's fake. Who's the doctor? What's the hospital? When did you get it? And now you have to justify like a million other things. And if you slip up on any little itty bitty thing, then that's that's going to become like the new subject for investigation. And now by like leaking more personal information about yourself, you've totally fucked up. So it seems like it's all of it is like a lose. Like no matter how you try to confront people making up lies about you on the internet, it's really, really hard to overcome those. I still read fantastic stories about me all the time where people just make up like crazy fucking shit. And even right now on the internet, like 90% of people think I've like doxed people publicly before for political arguments, or that like I'm like trying to murder people, or like, yeah, there's just like a lot of crazy shit. Yeah.
Kills women. Yeah, I have a lot of stuff that people accuse me of constantly. The main one is that I've just had a really insane life, and people genuinely think that I'm just a compulsive liar, which is really frustrating because, you know, no, I genuinely did go through all this stuff. I'm just sorry that everyone else's life was like, everyone who doubts me is like, life isn't like that. Life is boring. Life doesn't happen like that. And so just because I've gone through some hard shit, now suddenly I'm getting more shit for having gone through it.
Yeah.
It's just, it's a never ending cycle. And it's very frustrating. And it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what you are. It doesn't matter what you say. It doesn't matter what you do. You could be as controversial as you are or as neutral as Pokemon. And you'll still get an absolutely insane level of hate. And I think it's not because of anything that you do. I think, and that's why it's always a lose-lose-lose situation. I think it's because we are a mirror as content creators. When you approach a human being, if you look for bad, you'll find it. If you look for good, you'll find it. And so we reflect exactly what people are looking for in others and how they want to connect with others. And there are people who are good and want to give their time. They want to support somebody and they take an interest in you and they're lovely. And then there are people who are just looking for a reason to waste time on hate. And that's not about us. And that's why no approach will ever solve it. That's why nothing will ever fix it. Unless there are no YouTubers, no Twitch streamers, no online entertainers ever again, there will always be people doing this.
Sure.
And that's why I think it's so absurd that I was just told, just stop streaming, forehead. It's like the problem isn't content creators. It's that, you know, literally we are mirrors reflecting people's intent and how they want to connect.
Sure. Yeah. I think Pokemon proves that the best. If somebody that non-controversial can generate that much hate, it seems like people must be looking for it. Yeah. All right. Well, damn.
Yeah.
It's kind of a dark conversation, but if you ever have any other questions or issues, or if you need anything, you can always message me, or we can have another talk or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for making the time. This is really helpful, and I hope that things genuinely get better, and that, you know, you don't have to go through anything as harsh as you have. And, you know, I hope that you're, you know, the mother of your child and your kid are safe. You know, I hope that they're okay.
Yeah, me too. Yep, I go to a political conference in a few weeks, so hopefully I don't get killed there. And if I make it out of that okay, I figure I'm probably doing all right. So
just live, bitch.
I'll try my best. Yeah.
Cool. Well, see you later, dude.
Yeah, have a good one. Thanks for the chat.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.
Remember to hit that like and subscribe, and don't forget the notification bell so that my videos show up right in your feed.
I punched a dude in the dick.